2 games. 2 games he won. Now he's in his 3rd. Starting to the top left for LGIM. We have the Zerg player in red. Yes.
LGIM Ragnarok.
He is... Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I got confused by the colors. To the bottom right, in the blue, now the player coming out for the ZVZ, he is...
Axiom-Acer.
Mia always being one of the Zergs in the background of Slayers. We called him Gollum for a while because of his poses in the booth, but he looks a little bit more standard today.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've seen Gollum out here, though. I'm pretty happy to see him again.
I think his posture is getting a little bit better. It's not that screwed up anymore. I was really worried for his back, especially.
I like this sign, Acer, please win so I can see Nesty in action.
He has a point.
Yeah, he certainly does. There's a lot of players I'd like to see.
Yeah. And you know, I actually agree with you now. But now that I looked at Mia too, it feels a little bit like this Axiom-Acer shirt that they have, or the Axiom shirt, that lends itself a little bit to the players looking very, very different.
Well, it's like, you know, if you look at Ragnarok in the booth with the LGIM shirt on, that looks a little bit weird too, but I think it looks really good on him. I actually just think the Gugum shirt they have for LGIM right now just looks really good in general. I hope they never change. Much better than the yellow ones they were first sporting, in my opinion.
Okay, so a little bit back to ZVZ and to our match at hand. In Zerg vs. Zerg, what most games are about are Mutalisks.
Yeah.
Most people go into a Spire transition on 2 bases. This is what we usually see on the ladder in Heart of the Swarm. Mutalisk versus Mutalisk is really, really powerful, and it's very, very difficult to actually do anything else. You can, for example, try to go into a composition with Hydralisks. The Hydralisks are now a little bit faster. They are a bit more viable. But the problem is, if you run with Hydralisks against a player, or let's say Ro8 Hydra against a player who has Mutalisks, what he will immediately do is go straight into Banelings. And if the Banelings connect with the Hydralisk, then suddenly your anti-air is gone. All that the Mutalisks have to do is clean up the remaining Hydralisks, make sure that they do as much damage as possible, and then they can take down the Roaches. Yeah. So doing this is really tricky. Another option that you of course have as a Zerg player is going into Infestors. But Infestors have been changed.
Yeah, they're a little bit different. It's hard to aim a Fungal against Banelings, for example. That's going to be something that you probably will not hit most of the time.
Yeah, well, think about it. The Mutalisks are faster now. They are a lot more, a lot faster, a lot more mobile. And now you have the problem that aiming a Fungal is so much more difficult.
This is why they added the change with the Spore Crawler do bonus damage to Biological, which only affects Mutalisks and Overlords and Vipers.
Exactly.
And Broodlords. But it's, it's the first balance change we've really had besides PvP that addresses the mirror matchups. And it just goes to show how strong and how dominant Mutalisks are in ZVZ. Too bad they never patched that one in Brood War, but that's another story.
The thing is, I feel that even with the change to the Spore Crawler, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it, but the problem is, does that really help you? Yes, you can defend the bases that you have.
It basically means you don't die to an all-in with Mutalisk, but it's not going to help you that much otherwise.
Exactly. What happens? What happens is that you still, the Mutalisk player or the player that has more Mutalisk still controls the map. And from this point on, he can take more bases than the player who relies heavily on Spore Crawlers, because he needs to get the hatch up first, then get the Spore Crawlers in there. So that's really tricky. So yeah, Spore Crawlers definitely helped out a little bit, but they did not solve the problem. Here in this game, we don't see any kind of Mutalisk play just yet. There are a lot of timings that you have against the Mutalisk going player, and we have now Roaches, we have Banelings, we have early game aggression
coming in here, but he kind of misses with them. The Queens had a lot of hit points, but he has a lot more Lings to get through here. And a little bit greedy, Ragnarok not having a second spine and not blocking the ramp now is in a little bit of trouble with his workers.
Ragnarok also doesn't have a Baneling nest, so he doesn't have his own Banelings. He's completely relying on Roaches, and his Queens are now dying. They don't have the energy for a transfuse. 1 down, 2 down, and the third one is going down too.
He doesn't even have speed. He cannot defend this without the Roaches, and his Roaches are coming out pretty slowly now that he's losing so much of his mining time.
Yep, and now we have a situation where Ragnarok is in trouble. Not supply-wise, but the thing is, he lost his Queens.
Yeah, he has got no production now. The larvae you see is the larvae he's going to get. Obviously, hatcheries build up larvae over time.
And now we'll look at the production tab. We have, this is really interesting if you just look at it. We have suddenly our Axiom-Acer player, we have Mia going into Lair. So Ragnarok doesn't have a single queen, so he has a choice to make. Do I go for double queen, but it will really delay my lair tag, or what do I do right now? because if he doesn't go for the double queen, then his second queen is going to be out so much slower. And currently, he could actually do both because his first queen is already done, and that's exactly what he does. After one queen is completed, he goes into the layer tech. But you can really see how this works out. Well, Mia nearly is done with his tech.
Yeah, he's done with his tech.
Has just started his.
The question now becomes, will he go into those views we were talking about, or is he going to just play standard with the roaches he's already made? It looks like he's going to go roach. He starts roach speed and the +1. And because he's so ahead, this makes sense. He doesn't have to do anything fancy. He could have tried to go for Mitos immediately to catch his opponent who's also low on queens, as you mentioned before, who's not really going to be wanting to make sport crawlers right now because of the economic burden he's under. He could have gone for that, but instead he just wants to play the roaches out, and we're going to see a very Wings of Liberty-esque ZVZ here.
Yeah, and look at the supply that we have.
Yes.
Ragnarok was actually ahead in supply after the attack was fended off. But now, because the production is so much better for Mia, because he has those queens, he's suddenly 15 supply ahead. So he made a leap where he caught up not only with his opponent's supply, but he surpassed him.
Yeah.
And he can go into this third base. There is nearly nothing that his opponent can do to take the now.
Yeah, there's no way he can stop it. He just does not have the production. He has it now, but it's delayed. He lost so much larva. The roach count right now is 18 to 10 in Mia's favor, and he's still going strong with that. He's going to have roach speed much faster, even adding the Hydralist in now, which Hydras in ZVZ are even better than they were before because they can walk faster off creep. So once you get into an engagement where you're off creep, they're going to be better. Obviously, your opponent has this ability as well, but if you're ahead and you have that Hydralist speed before your opponent does, and you have an army clashing against his army, even if your army size is similar, the Hydras are going to be able to do so much more damage. So that's something important to consider here going into this. And he's going to deny the third of Ragnarok because he sees it and he knows what's up. He's just going to go in here, snipe it. He knows there's no infestors out to trap his roaches. He knows he doesn't have Ling speed, so he's just going to come over here. And yeah, he's going to fight a little bit, but I think he should be able to get this down. We'll see.
The thing is, we have the upgrades a little bit faster for Ragnarok. This is one of the advantages that he has. A +2 attack upgrade will definitely hit at some point, and roughly, well, we have a 1-1 situation, but if he can just buy himself some time for the second attack upgrade to come out and also the armor upgrade, that's going to help him. The Hydras are definitely going to be an issue, though, because this composition is much better than what Ragnarok currently has.
Yeah.
And so far, Mia is doing a really good job here. We talked a bit about the early lead already, and he's currently running with it.
He's running with it quite hard. Like you said, the upgrades are the only problem he's going to face with the Carapace coming in now. He has his third base up just a little bit faster than Ragnarok, but he wasn't able to deny. His opponent got enough roaches out, and with that choke point, it's always the question, do you commit? But now the Hydras are here, and this is the moment where he's going to kill Overlords, which actually supply blocks his opponent, and is just going to get into a dominant position and start trading.
Now also the Hydra Den for Ragnarok, who's by the way supply blocked and heavily at that for a few seconds while he's building those Overlords. He wants to go into the Hydras too, but he is already behind, and getting those Hydras out, it's not going to be easy. And keep in mind, he will need those upgrades too. He didn't research anything for them just yet.
He doesn't have anything at all. The Hydras of Mia do not yet have the speed upgrade. He's got his Hydras at the front here, but it's still just way too much DPS in this army. And Ragnarok has to get out of here. He cannot fight like this. He goes for a flank, which is pretty smart, but can he get it off?
Yeah, that's a question. A flank would be good, especially since it exposes the Hydralist, and that's exactly what he's trying to do here. But there's so many Hydras streaming in, and this is a good position for Ragnarok, but there might be too much for Mia.
This is really close, but it looks like the Roach DPS, since the Hydras were not able to hide, they had no shield, and a few of them are going down right now. Looks like this is actually going to go in Ragnarok's favor. It's going to put him back even with his opponent now.
Position.
Yeah, it's
really
all about
important.
the position. You know, Hydras do great damage from behind, but they need Roaches to tank for them, and if they didn't have the Roaches with that flank, the Roaches of his opponent, the Roaches of Ragnarok, just cut through.
Yeah. And also, of course, this lead in upgrades that we had for him. He's now on 1 armor and +2 attack, so that definitely played a major role in the last engagement. But the position itself was, of course, much, much better for Ragnarok, who's now going into the range upgrade, who's adding his own Hydralist and moving in again. He wants to carry this momentum to the bottom of the map and take out his third opponent.
Yeah. I don't know if this attack is going to work, but it ends up being a worse trade for him. He doesn't lose his advantage per se here, but he definitely he stepped a little bit too far forward there. But he will escape. There's not enough Lings to trap him. You never want to make very many Lings in ZVZ once you pass the initial engagements. And in that sense, Ragnarok has 100 extra gas on his opponent, if you think about it that way, since he never researched speed.
+2 attack is now also completed for Mia. So now we have him behind with 1 armor upgrade, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yep, there he starts it, the first one. The second one has been started for Ragnarok, which gives him once again the lead in upgrades. But still, 3 bases against 3 bases. If you just look at the supply in Harvesters, it's fairly even, 60 to 57. Overall supply also not too shabby, but I would say at this point definitely a bit of a lead for Ragnarok once again.
Yeah.
Just thanks to the upgrade lead that he has, a bit better of a composition for him too.
Even starts Hydra's speed now. So that's going to be just an upgrade that allows him to be more mobile. With the Overlord speed, he can actually put his Overlords back out there, which is what he's doing. He's putting them across the map. This can be for creep spread, but I think more so it's actually just to get great vision of what his opponent's doing. The way he's spreading them, they're everywhere, so he can see any sort of push, any sort of run by that goes to his 3rd and his 4th, which he'll eventually take here. So he's got all the cards now, and it's the tables have completely turned.
I actually just thought about how silly it would look if you could spread creep at your opponent's natural and block the natural in ZVZ. You have to kill your opponent's Overlord. It's like you have friendly creep and hostile creep or something like that.
Yeah, that was like, I don't really like Axiom-Acer creep. I don't want to.
Yeah, that's not high quality creep there. I want my own creep that is much better. I'm more comfortable with them. Nah, that would be kind of funny.
LGIM's like, well, as long as it's not Samsung creep, I'm fine. But otherwise, it's okay.
Yeah, that would look a little bit silly. But yeah, so the Overlord's out, as you already said. They can scout a little bit what's going on, see the move out here.
Yeah.
And now the supply lead heavily for Ragnarok, who has this speed upgrade, who is about to have +2 armor. And this will just make sure that he will, over the entire duration of the game, have a lead in upgrades.
Yeah, the question now becomes, does he add the Infestation Pit and add a few Infestors? You know, he doesn't necessarily have to do that.
Didn't he already do that? One of them just built one.
I don't know which one it was.
Yeah, I actually forgot about it too.
Okay, so it was in fact Mia who did it.
Mia built the Infestation Pit already. He could go into Hive. If he has the resources, he could go into Hive here. Takes a bit of a supply lead here.
Blinding Cloud in ZVZ is important, but Swarm Host, that's not what I expected to see at all in ZVZ.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either. He builds 2. Usually the strength of a Swarm Host is if you have a certain number of them, and then you move forward.
Oh, this is a huge Ling run by the way. You don't normally see this in the late game. Usually it's with Roaches, but he actually gets into the main. If he snipes this Queen, this could be really detrimental to the production. And he's got a way better concave here, but the flank comes on. This is what won him the last fight. But this time, I don't know.
This army is so huge for me. I don't think that Ragnarok can actually defeat that.
Swarm Host needs a burrow, though.
The Swarm Host is here, is immediately going for the Locust. Another one is coming in too. We didn't see any upgrades for them just yet. Mia is actually losing this. The position was better for Ragnarok, and even though it looked like Ragnarok had the smaller army, he pushes Mia not only back, but is now suddenly in a position where he can take down this base.
Yeah, still an attack in the main base going on right now. The Queen does survive and kills the last of those units. More Hydras reinforcing here. He needs to push these back because without the momentum, he can finally recover. He's making more Roaches.
The main base threat has now been taken out by Ragnarok.
He's just rallying across the map, but if he keeps trading poorly against Mia, Mia can equalize the supply, but it looks like he's finally going to get everything together now and perhaps end the game. There's just way too many Roaches here. 31-4 right now, and the momentum is on his side. He builds the offensive spine. Oh, wow.
Alright, so it looks like we really have a 3-kill for Ragnarok. Mia is not strong enough to take him down. Paused the game by accident for a second, but leaves after the GG. Ragnarok with 3 games in a row.
Mia could not be happy losing that game. He was ahead by far after his aggression, killing those Queens. But that one poor engagement, well actually, I have to correct myself and say that it was a good engagement by Ragnarok. He hit the exposed Hydras with his Roaches coming from 2 sides.
Seed is running in, it's like, dude, what are you doing? We talked about this. 2 opponents, you can take out 2, but leave some for me.
By the way, I'm going to buy that hoodie that Seed has. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, it actually looks really good. It's not really the colors that I can pull off, but I, thought about it earlier too.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's so good.
You know, I'm looking at Mia in the booth, and this is not the start and this performance that Axiom-Acer wanted to show when they went into this first GSTL match. I mean, this is still the pre-season, so there's a lot of room where you can't just grow and evolve. This is the first test for them, and this is important. But this is definitely not what they wanted to show.
Definitely a rocky start. And the question now becomes, they only have 1 player left. You know, we thought maybe we see Alicia and MMA. MMA, though, I don't think he can come out now. I think now it has to be Alicia because he's the one who's doing the best.
With the performance that Alicia has shown in the IPL Korean qualifier, where he took out so many strong Korean opponents, I feel it has to be Alicia. I would love to see MMA. I would really like to see him, but I don't know how strong MMA really is in Heart of the Swarm, and Alicia has proven that he is a very tough opponent to face. So I think Alicia might be the better choice.
I'm in agreement, especially with all the Protoss options right now. It feels like Protoss players have kind of figured out more of the matchups than everybody else right now. Just they're like one step ahead when it comes to playing new styles versus regular openings. Like we've seen Terran players doing mostly the same openings, changing some things up. I'd like to see him come out here. It's been a while since Alicia sat in that booth and done his thing, you know?
I also feel that there are so many new timings that you have, and I feel for Terran it's a little bit more difficult to find all those out because they have so much. They have so many new toys to toy around with. You have the Widowmine, you have the Hellbat who is continuously being changed, so you have to adjust a little bit. The new Reaper is great. You can to work around with the Raven. You have the Medivacs alone that already do so much. So all these things that they have.
It's a lot of new stuff.
It's a lot of new stuff.
It's a lot of old stuff upgraded too.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. It's old stuff, it's new stuff. Some of them it's a little bit gimmicky, but there are so many things that you can try to experiment with these days that it's pretty difficult to find a certain line. You have a style that you play, but then looking, I don't know, looking at different strategies is really not easy because there's so much that you can do and that people have to figure out how to play with it.
Exactly.
Protoss also has a lot of new timings, a lot of new things that they can use, but I feel for them it's maybe a little bit
I feel like the Protoss units, exactly, they feel more straightforward. The roles. You know, there's never going to be a time where you're like, should I get Tempest now? I'm not sure. It's either you make it or you don't. Who's it going to be?
It's MMA. MMA comes out. Now I'm really excited.
He has been hiding for a long time, but now he's here.
You know, seriously, if you choose MMA now over Alicia, even though Alicia did so well, you have to have a lot of faith in MMA's abilities to take this.
Yeah, he has to now beat 4 players in a row.
And let's not forget that he's up against an opponent who already took down 2 Terrans. Yes, granted, both Terrans went for the late game. They didn't go into these strategies that Zerg is struggling with, but still, Ragnarok did not win because it was like a fluke or anything. No, this guy showed us really, really good macro game and good late game. So what is MMA going to do?
Yeah, what's he going to show us? Because he's going to have to show a lot of variety in his play. He's not going to be able to just sit down and play the same game 4 times. He's going to have to play against so many different races, so many different opponents, potentially GSL champions even. And before we do this, we are going into a 5-minute break. So tell everybody you know MMA is back. He's in the booth. We're going to see him after this quick break.
Coming on.